thing is when you go first, you get to pick the first song. And so I think everybody wanted that one, but you know, I get a great opportunity to stand in front of you today. Today's a big day, especially for me. Just celebrated my 41st birthday. And so a couple other people I think sprinkled in, but so I'm from Doug High. So that's a big deal. I'm from Collier Heights, grew up Dixie Hills, kind of right around the corner, lived in Harris homes, Bowen homes, what they say, all the homes. And you know, the coolest thing about that is that you start off, you know, somewhere where people put you in a box. And you want to be something great, but you don't always see greatness around you. You know, if you're from this neighborhood, while Collier Heights has an extraordinary history, when I grew up, that history was kind of hidden from you. You know, you see a lot of dirty streets, a lot of homelessness, you know, drugs, alcohol, and when I went to Doug, we didn't have windows. So, you know, there was an environment that some outside of the walls thought didn't necessarily lead to success. But you know, the mayor of one of the greatest cities in the world came from Doug High. You know, they mentioned Killer Mike. You know, I got a good friend, Heather Morris, who is introducing new movies and other things with Lionsgate, and then you got me. And so, you know, to tell you a little bit about my story and why my topic is the future of work and is a job enough, I'll tell you, my father from Canton, Mississippi, part of those people from Mississippi who migrated to Chicago. You know, every black person in Chicago got roots in Mississippi.
Come on, Mississippi.
And my mother from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, somehow found her way up there as well, came to Atlanta, and my father was a Fortune 100 CEO when black folks, you know, weren't necessarily having that type of success. He had good friends like Maynard Jackson, Andrew Young, Bill Campbell, Vernon Jones, Milton Jones, CEOs, politicians, and great people, you know, all around. And despite that, you know, he had to do other things. He's big in real estate. My mother, while she was not only working for the state for over 40 years, she would tow me and my little brother, and we were terrible children, all around Georgia State University, and you know, always doing something. I remember when I was a child, my birth home, what ended up being my birth home, my dad told me him and Maynard Jackson were just kind of walking the streets of West End, what is now 600 Willard Avenue, off Roger Street in Cascade, and they found my home. And it was because they were both kind of fighting over it, you know, kind of traveling around to look at real estate and see who could get a leg up. And when I think about those type of stories, and you know, my mom trying to get an education, working 2 jobs, working at night, leaving us at home. I guess the statute of limitations is up, so I can tell you that, because we probably shouldn't get at home. But you know, it kind of showed me that one, work is very important. I think what it also showed me is that you always have to do more and expose yourself to different things. And I think that's kind of what my talk is about today. When I think about the future of work, so to just give you a quick background so we can take you on this little ride. Started off, went to Douglas High School. Long before I got this belly, I was a really good athlete. You can't tell now, it's poking out a little bit. But man, listen, when I ran these halls, I was a bad boy. You hear from Bim Joyner today, I'm telling you, you back me up. And so I just thought I was gonna be this amazing basketball player, be rich. You know, back then I wanted a whole bunch of girlfriends. Now I think I only got one. She's sitting there, so I better make sure everybody knows I got one. But you know, that was my future. I was gonna be the superstar athlete that came from Southwest Atlanta and made it big. And then I graduated from high school with a 2.0, which I don't even think you can graduate with that right now. Didn't pass the SAT, and I had committed to the University of Colorado. And they sent me to a prep school in Virginia. And I went to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. We had excellent success. My mother ended up getting really sick, so I found my way back to Atlanta and joined Georgia State University and left early, played a little bit of basketball, and the next thing you know, I had put away some money. I thought I was really, really smart. Put away some money until I was 45. And about 6 months after I did that, I lost my job, tore my knee up, couldn't walk for a year, and I found myself homeless and not sleeping on my mother's couch or couch surfing. I had a 98 expedition that I literally lived in, bathed in, went to work, and came home to that car. And so everything that I didn't want to be at Douglas High School, I ended up becoming. And so along the way, I started trying to get services and access services for homeless people so that I can kind of get out of where I was. Went to Fulton County. I met this guy, God bless his soul, because he's passed on now, Burrell Billingsley. And he gave me an opportunity to enter into workforce development. So I started off as a 6'9" intake specialist. So that's basically the person at the front desk that says, hello, welcome to Fulton County, how can I help you? And from there, ended up being a case manager, ended up being a case manager, career advisor, business representative, program manager. And then Mr. Billingsley said, man, listen, you ain't gonna get my job, so you got to get out of here. So I went to the technical college system where I became the youngest director in the history of that organization and had a little bit of success. And then I also had a baby out of wedlock. And my job ended because it was grant funded. And I wasn't good with money, great parents and all of that good stuff, but they didn't teach me how to save your money and prepare for the future. And so I was forced to do something that folks in Southwest Atlanta know how to do very well, and that's hustle. So I started, it's funny, I heard Bim on the radio the other day. He said, man, that boy Odie is a politician, a party promoter, event manager, and he used to hoop. And so I didn't think about it that way, but literally I had to do whatever it took to take care of my daughter, myself, and prepare for whatever opportunity was gonna come. And so I don't have a lot of time, but I'll slide through and say since that time, I have been blessed to be able to help over 500,000 people find employment or housing. Been able to, oh man, I appreciate that. Been able to, identify new and unique ways to help the federal government's economy create opportunities and allow people economic opportunity. So that's resulted in about $3 billion in investment into underserved communities just like this one. So while I'm extremely proud of that, what it has also told me is that you have to do more than one thing. And you cannot be settled into a career. College isn't the answer, even a skilled trade. If you look at, they tell you all of these different stats. So there are, I think right now, 7.3 million open jobs. But there are 10 million people who are looking for them and don't have the skills to fill them. They also tell you that the highest in-demand opportunities in the United States, as well as here in Georgia, in IT, healthcare, and film. And logistics. And so while those things are the statistics and what folks tell you, I guess what I can tell you differently is, and the only reason I told you a little bit about my story and kind of what I've done and where I've served is because when it comes to workforce development, economic development, and the state of this economy, there's no one, I don't think, on earth, but definitely not a black man under 50 working in government who is the foremost expert on these things other than the guy who's standing in front of you today. And so, oh man, I appreciate it. Usually when you talk, when you boast yourself, you don't get a hand for that. But I think the importance of those things is that while that's the story, I think when you look at what I have endured and what the story of all of these great people in Atlanta is that things change. And they change drastically beyond what we're prepared for. 100 years ago, there were 13,000 buggy manufacturers so that people can travel by horseback. 10 years later, the first car was introduced, and you had 6 buggy manufacturers in the United States. The best job 60 years ago was to be the person inside of the elevator pressing the button until you get to the top. Now, if you get on the elevator and you press that button and you hit the wrong floor, that's it, Mr. Postman, I'm coming after you. You know, it's a big change in how we do things. I think y'all remember MySpace was the introduction to social media. I don't think anybody has had a MySpace page in over a decade. Things change so quickly that we can't always keep up with them. And so a wise person told me, and it's my stepmother, I have a bonus mom, Pat Donald, one of my favorite people in the world. She said that you don't know, everybody on earth gets at least one opportunity. Some get more, some get less. But everybody gets one, and you don't know what it's gonna look like. And so the first thing you have to do is be prepared. For many, that means saving every dime that you can get. For others, it means being the smartest, most educated person you can get. For all of us, it is be the most ethical person that you can be. But among all things, you gotta hustle. Because if you are not prepared, if you don't have a diverse skill set, this world will eat you alive. And in the direction that we're all going with this changing economy, with different levels of leadership, some of which we respect and others that we don't, if you are not prepared for the ultimate change that is approaching our community, then you'll be left behind. And so when I think about the future of work and is a job enough, the question is much bigger than that. When you look at Atlanta and where we're going and the changes, the gentrification that everyone's so afraid of, the communities that are continuously left behind, the answer is no. A job isn't enough. And when we think about the future of work, it's what's the future of our community? How can I prepare my community to still be standing, unlike those buggies and horses and carriages that are no longer with us? How do I prepare to be the person repairing those elevators versus the obsolete person who's hitting the button? And so, as I close out, I heard Cousin Jeff say this one time. I was blessed to hear him while I was in DC. He said, many times we find ourselves in this box, and all of our opportunities, all our future is inside of this box. And I thought about that, and I said, you know, what I want to leave folks with today is that your passion lies outside of that box. 20 years ago, I was a very skinny kid, hoping to be an NBA player, because on my block, that's all anybody thought could get you out the hood. But when I stepped outside of that box, I found a different opportunity and my passion. And that passion has allowed me to help not only my community, but communities all over the world where people who look like me now have a chance to be more. And so, regardless of the purpose of the original TED Talks, I wanted to set the tone for TEDxCollierHeights as you hear from these amazing speakers today, and let you know that it takes all of us being committed to step outside of our box and finding our passion in our community. Because Atlanta truly does influence everything, and Atlanta is you. And so I encourage you, as you continue your day-to-day, to find your passion, impact your community, and make sure you pass on the message that while a job is not enough, we are.